this computer. Thanks.
Man, that is crazy. Should I give consent? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean,
it's my choice.
Give consent if you would like to give consent.
It's my choice. I was just saying. I did not feel coerced.
What people are going to enter this video on this week is going to be a little strange. We're talking about consent, everybody. Talking about consent.
Wow. Let's see. Hey, no, not yet. Wait a minute.
Yeah, I believe we are live, my friend.
Yes, we are now. Yes, we are. We are live.
Hey, everybody. It's Wednesday night, and that means you hang out with Evan and Aaron. This is the Evan and Aaron Show. I'm Aaron. This is my buddy Evan, and it is Pride Month, and this is the rainbow shirt that I have in my possession. So I'm throwing it out there. And of course, it's fitting that Canada is on it and not America, because we do a shit job of really looking after everybody in this country. But it is Pride Month.
Yes.
And to celebrate it, Florida decided to ban more trans females from playing sports. So still got a long way to go in this country, for sure. But it is nice that we actually have a leader who recognizes the need to put this stuff front and center.
Yep,
and he has done that with the LGBTQ plus community. And the man gave a very moving speech today about a major historical event that most of us probably missed out on, probably first learned about it watching either documentaries or maybe a really, really good TV show on HBO a couple years ago. But the Tulsa massacre was 100 years ago, 1921. And, this is definitely one of those things where it's hard. It's really hard, I find. I mean, they're trying. Trust me. The racists are alive and well today, commenting on things. But this is one of those difficult ones to push back on, because, man, you can draw a straight line from there was black wealth in this country, and their descendants damn sure deserve some reparations, deserve to be compensated for what was a massacre, what was white business owners taken to the skies and burning tar onto the rooftops of buildings. I mean, several square blocks of a thriving community were destroyed simply for the audacity of being successful. Quite frankly, I don't think there's really ever been a very good reason given for it. Not that there would be. But Evan, when did you first learn about this event, and what are your emotions on a day like today to see it finally getting observed?
I honestly am like most Americans. I learned about it probably 3-4 years ago and was horrified. Just like, wait, what? This actually happened here. And what it did was it allowed me to really evaluate the education that I received as far as history is concerned, and my evaluation of it is that it was shit. And wait a minute, it was, I need to say it like Clay Davis would say it, shit. That's exactly what it was. I am absolutely all for reparations. These folks, they have gone generation after generation being robbed of the possibility to gain interest on wealth. That's a big thing that we forget about, because it's like, oh, well, you're just going to give them a bunch of money. Well, wait a minute. We would have had a bunch of money.
They had a bunch of money.
Yeah, we would have had a ton of money if we were allowed to have that, gain interest and set in investments. But
your capital gains taxes that you hate.
Yeah, exactly.
That's precisely what this would have built.
Oh yeah. But I want to also say please, please, please continue. And I'm saying this to everybody. Please continue your education with this, man. This
Mhm.
by no means was the only massacre that took place
Yeah.
in the bloody summer of 1919. Well, no, I'm sorry. 1919 was called the bloody summer. 1921, obviously Tulsa. But there were so many race massacres that took
Yeah.
place in our country, and we look at those and we have to study and we have to truly understand that the greatest loss in this obviously is the loss of lives, the loss of Black lives who
Mhm.
their family history has now been amended. We never would have we will never know what kind of greatness would have come out of would have continued to come out
Mhm.
of Greenwood, continued to come out of
Yeah.
Rosewood, continued to come out of South Carolina. you know but then you start digging a little deeper and you learn about little places like Poke Patch was in the corner of Gallia and Scioto County in Ohio. And in studying this, I realized that my double greats helped set up this Black town in order to be part of the Underground Railroad.
Mhm.
And it's been appropriated into the Gallia Scioto state forest. So once again, land that was owned has been stolen. Just like it was in Tulsa. You can look at the Tulsa Center that's being built, through different lenses. But the land that it is being built on has been stolen, and
Mhm.
hopefully people will, that'll initiate a return back to some type of justice for that. But man, it's just it's a huge story, and it's an amazing story, for people to truly understand and to see Black people thriving, because what we see today on TV is we see Black people surviving, right?
Mhm.
I mean, those are the images that we get. We rarely get to
Yeah.
see Black people who thrive. Like
Mhm.
the most popular Black person that we get to see thrive are the Obamas and Oprah, and movie stars.
Mhm.
I mean, we don't get to see, just regular folks like us. We don't get to see the impact that Black folks have on their community nowadays, because what is being perpetuated by the media is, the Black folks, who are, being thrown in jail, who are doing different things, and it's still happening. I don't care what people say. It still happens disproportionately.
Mhm.
But that's all I'll say about that. And we'll probably talk more about it. But Aaron, what do you think, man? I mean, how has this changed you? Like, how has this changed your outlook on American history?
Well, it was incredibly eye-opening. I was aware of some incidents in history. I was aware of Rosewood, and I'd having watched certain movies, certain documentaries. I was aware, at least of some incidents, but Tulsa is massive, and to me, this ties into another debate that we're having right now. This whole argument over critical race theory, which, by the way, isn't
Mm-hmm.
even being taught in high schools, and parents and legislators are losing their minds, basically because it's a way to drum up votes. But it reinforces we wouldn't be having a discussion about the need or not to teach critical race theory at a high level and let that trickle down into schools as it will, if things like Tulsa and Rosewood were being taught. You want to know why people feel a certain way in this country and have distrust, and and why you as a white person are like, why do Black people still complain about this? Because they can trace back to grandpa getting killed on the streets of Tulsa
Mm-hmm.
for nothing more than being a wealthy Black man. So you want to talk about this bygone era. apparently, that there were no problems in America and that we're a post-racial country. We're not, because you have failed to acknowledge it. You have failed
Yep.
to recognize that this country made a false promise with no intention of keeping it, and has basically reinforced that every step of the way. And your privilege has allowed you to sidestep it the entire time. And when someone earnestly comes to you and says, I deal with this on a regular basis, my family has dealt with this, to dismiss them is the height of your privilege, because you
Yeah.
don't ever have to worry about it.
Yep. Well,
So,
and I love that you said that about critical race theory too, man, because obviously the natural reaction, and I'm thankful for this reaction, is that companies and organizations are now saying, dude, we need to learn more about this. We need to truly know what this is about. And it's like, critical race theory has been around for a while, quite a bit. And what we're doing is we're just challenging the notion of race.
mm-hmm.
I mean, that's literally what we're doing with critical race theory, is going back and looking, why was race created in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
And showing how from that creation we can track and we can stem, or we can track and find how a lot of the things that are affecting us today stem all the way back to the creation of race.
Mm-hmm.
And how it was made to divide, and how it was made to dehumanize. And for some reason, when little Jimmy starts to feel a pang of compassion,
mm-hmm.
We get all up in arms. Why are you making my son feel guilty? And I had an interesting conversation, Aaron. I was going to tell you about. I had a conversation with a colleague of mine, and I don't know, he may tune in soon. If you do, Jens, hey, what's up, man? But Jens is from Germany, and I just asked him. I said, man, how did learning about the Holocaust at an early age affect you, and what do you think would happen if we taught the truth about American history to young people, when your same age, when you learned about the Holocaust? And he had a lot of really profound things to say, but the one thing that really stuck out to me was, he was like, it's amazing how America tends to continue to want to revel in its ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
How it continues to not make amends, not talk about, not discuss, the things that's in its history that are horrible, yes, but when those things are talked about, and when they're brought to light, and when young people say, you know what, they're teaching me this so that I make sure that this never happens again. Because we can sit around and say, oh, that would never happen again, but you see what's going on in Germany right now. Germany has a segment of their parliament that is like extreme alt-right.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at what's happening with us, good old MTG and Matt Gaetz and those guys, and Alan, QAnon, it's maddening that we can't see the parallels. It's maddening that we can't say, you know what, our kids need to know about this, because
Right.
these wackos are out there, and they'll very easily start listening to them.
Mm-hmm.
So it was an amazing conversation I had with him. And Jens, if you're listening, man, thanks, appreciate it.
It's always great to have that experience. It wasn't a conversation, but it was something I watched over the weekend. I watched an episode of Finding Your Roots. So it's hosted by Harvard professor.
What's his name?
Henry Louis Gates.
Yes. And it's celebrities, right?
Yeah, and he does kind of a deep dive on their kind of their ancestry. And you've probably heard about him because there was a controversy about Ben Affleck persuading him to omit the fact that, or portions of from the show, that his ancestors had owned slaves.
Oh wow, okay. No,
I happened to watch the most recent episode this weekend, and it was about two comedians. It was Lewis Black, and it was Roy Wood Jr.
Oh wow.
Both have loose ties, I guess, to, well, I guess more than loose ties, have both been on as regular contributors to the Daily Show. So a lot of people are familiar with them.
Right.
And kind of things that we've touched on here, when they talked about Lewis Black's, one of his grandfathers, coming over, taking the boat ride over from, I believe he came over from Belgium. But his race was listed. Not ethnicity, his race. Jewish.
So he was white.
Jewish.
Jewish.
Yeah. Lewis Black's family, like one of the few times where they're like, we got 100% accuracy on this shit. His family is 100% Ashkenazi Jew.
Okay.
Like everybody came over from former portions of the Soviet Union, former, I guess, pre-Soviet Union.
Right.
So
Soviet
Russia
bloc type. Yeah. I guess.
But then you should really watch this, because I won't do it justice. But Roy Wood Jr.'s was just as crazy and complex and intriguing. He could trace directly to an ancestor who came over from Africa. I believe the Gambia was where he was from.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
But he came over as a man named Sam. He came over on his own.
Oh.
And then was enslaved. Then was enslaved after.
I was going to say,
he got to the United
any
States.
of his boys like tell him, say, bruh?
Apparently not.
You ain't gonna want to make that trip, bro.
But they showed Roy Wood Jr. It was a last will and testament listing the property that this particular person owned, and it was 3 of his great grandfathers and his great grandmother written out on a piece of paper.
Wow.
And on the one hand, and you can see Roy going through this mixture of emotions, because on the one hand, he has direct knowledge now, direct evidence of where he comes from, who his family is, and not that many people know that, and especially Black people in America. The trail goes cold at some point.
Yeah.
Because at some point they were property that didn't care all that much about keeping track of records in the same way that familial relations happen. So the fact that he could trace it was pretty cool. But on the other hand, he's like, it's my family being listed as property alongside pigs and goats and cows and shit. It's like, it's like, how do you reconcile this, man? He's like, how do you raise children in slavery? How do you he's like, I tell my child every day, you can be anything that you want to be. What do you do? How do you find hope in that moment? And that's a question right there. White people need to look at and be like, you won't ever have to answer this question. No one in your family ever had to worry about that shit. Maybe if they were in indentured servitude, maybe if they were, of Irish ancestry, that still isn't the same thing as being chattel.
Yeah.
And we've not reckoned with it, and we've not reckoned with 100 years of it. And now we are simply 1 year removed from Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, many more incidents where the Black community is not viewed as equal by law enforcement, and not viewed as equal by the media, not viewed as equal by a good portion of the public. How do we measure the progress of the last 100 years? How do we measure the progress of the last 1 year? Look, it's great that Derek Chauvin belongs in jail, and the other 3 dudes probably do too, to varying degrees. I have a little sympathy for the guy who was like first week on the job, who said, I think this is wrong. We shouldn't be doing this, but I don't really have a whole lot of clout because I'm the new guy. I have a little sympathy for him. He should get the least amount of time, but I'm sorry, man. You were still a Nazi guarding the door. And what have we made progress?
Man, I know you hate dead air, but damn, that's a question that you got to think about. have we made progress? You know, no, no. And here's why I say no. I don't want to be, cynical, too cynical. I don't want to be too, I don't want people to say, "Oh, there's the angry black guy. There he is again." Yeah, I'm pissed. I'm angry. I am. And I think that a lot of my black peers are the same way. I think that, we have this amount of anger that we carry with us on the daily, dude. I mean, we carry it with us daily. There's because and I'm not speaking for everyone because I missed a meeting once again this month. So there you go. Io might be able to speak to it. I think he was there. No, I can't remember. Did you sign me in, Io? I can't remember. I, for me, I do not think that we've made progress because it's going to take where's everybody now?
Right.
Like where are we talking about this now? Are we continuing the discussion? Those folks who were fighting so hard to get, a nationalist out of office. Okay, great. We got him out of office. So, now let's turn our attention to the main reason why we didn't want a nationalist in the office. Yeah. Let's talk about the fact that IO literally just popped up and I saw it. The Republicans, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the fact that, Republicans for the past few months, I'm just saying few months, but we all know it goes back further than that. But for the past few months, it's been so blatant that they have passed just incredibly intolerant laws, attacking our LGBTQ community, attacking the Black and brown communities, taking away voting rights and trying to justify it by saying, well, what's wrong with us asking people to have show an ID? That's asinine. That's stupid. That's ludicrous, man. I mean, what is happening is we are seeing the reinstatement of Black codes again in our society. Black codes, for those who may not know, were the codes that took over after Jim Crow was supposedly over. Mm-hmm. States made Black codes so that they can still control the Black population. And this is what's happening right now. I'm not an alarmist. Aaron, you know this, man. I'm not an alarmist. I'm not one to, run in and say the sky is falling. Mm-hmm. But I'm telling you, mark my words. If the American people lose the midterm elections in 2022, it is going to severely return America back to the possibility of having these type of things be the norm, where we're actually talking about, people can't hand out, water and food in line and stuff like that because they're afraid it's going to sway someone's vote. I'm sorry. If I'm hot and dehydrated and things like that, and Donald Trump himself came up and gave me a bottle of water, first of all, might not take it. But if I was really dehydrated, I'd take it, but I still wouldn't vote for the fucker. I wouldn't. Right. Because I know what's best for me. And as an American citizen, I have that right to vote that way.
There are already laws governing how close you can be in to give somebody with a candidate's name on it or supporting a particular point of view. This was unnecessary legislation at best. Yeah. Okay. And again, I'm with you. I somehow don't think that you're going to manage to sway hundreds of a particular type of voter simply because you gave them a water bottle.
And here's the other thing too, man. And this is probably the most disheartening thing is the, obviously, I'm not talking about you, but is the Republican white male ego so fragile? Yes. That you would stand behind a woman who is literally comparing getting a life-saving vaccine and having it, written down as comparing that to the Nazi Holocaust. Are you that fragile?
Yeah.
Are you that blinded by your privilege that you refuse to see just plain and simple right and wrong?
Well,
believe me, I'm one of those people that think right and wrong is on, it is very much a spectrum, because depending on where you're at, I get it. But there are some things that are just absolutely, that's not right, man. Come on.
Well, Io's comment from a few minutes ago, I think we should be very specific on who the we is when we ask this question as to whether or not we've made progress.
Yeah.
He's absolutely right. And Chris Rock has a bit about this. Look, Black people have always been worthy of dignity and humanity. Black people have always had the ability to get an education and attain whatever position to work in this country, to be president of the United States. There were qualified men and women of color well before Barack Obama. Okay. He wasn't the magical Negro who just came along and suddenly.
I love the fact that you use that word too, man. I love it. That's awesome.
He's there,
Yeah.
he understands which club in the bag to use.
And he didn't have to carry anyone else's clubs.
So
that's a good thing.
It is some progress that I think there are plenty. There are a lot of white voices who feel confident speaking out and who do speak out. But it doesn't change the fact that percentage-wise, just, hey, go peruse the comment section of the article on the Tulsa massacre today. I mean, there's literally nothing at all to go to that for, to like find fault with, and yet it's full of racist commentary, which tells you right there that they feel empowered, they feel embiggened by by Trump and his supporters, and Roger Stone and Steve Bannon, who openly are just incredibly racist and anti-immigrant. I mean, they're Nazi gathering over the weekend, calling for basically a coup on par with Myanmar, is evidence enough.
I got to say, did you see the Twitter feed? Who was it that literally just mapped this out? He did such a great job. And he said, I think it was Steve Schmidt. He said, if Trump was involved in any of those talks, he is guilty of right there inciting a coup and treason. That's exactly what it is.
And we know he was, and that's why they managed to, they wanted to shoot this down. They don't want the truth. They don't want to know what actually happened, because by and large, they know what happened because they were in touch with their own supporters the day before, tacitly giving them cover. So, on the one hand, I'm with you. I don't want to be an alarmist, and I am very much a moderate thinker. But there's actively a group of people that have gained power in one of the two major parties right now that are openly advocating for essentially a coup.
Yep.
And I'm not sure what the appropriate response to that is. Because I don't want to be a communist dictator and just be like, let's round them all up. But at the same time, like, how do you cut the legs out from under Marjorie Taylor Greene and this Cawthorn dude? And I mean, Matt Gaetz is going to put himself in jail. So well done there. Well done there.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
Hawley,
like Jim Jordan,
Jim Jordan. Yeah. How does Jim Jordan have any support? I mean, is wrestling that popular in Ohio?
It breaks my heart, man. It really does. It's like, you think that the people of Georgia and the people of Ohio and the people of Montana, they would all see this, but there is a level of just delusion. I mean, I don't know you can call it anything else, Aaron. I really don't. I don't know what else you can call it other than mass delusion that's going on right now.
Well, when you throw in the QAnon stuff, um, you know what's hysterical to me is, you know, they said that Donald Trump's new social media platform was going to redefine the game, and today it officially shut down. So, you know,
29 days later.
so he says, I'll be president again by August. I mean, how many times, I guess if you're a supporter, how many times do you have to be lied to? How many times do they have to tell you something and it not come true for you to finally be like, you know what, you guys are bullshitting. This is some straight up bullshit. Like, I follow Patriot Takes on Twitter, and it's kind of fun to see, like, when he kind of points somebody out, he's like, they've lied to us again. This is bullshit. I'm not falling for this again. And it's like, we've been telling you this for years now. And
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm telling you, we've said it before on the show, and I will say it again. The bottom line is people are not willing to admit they're wrong. They're not willing to admit, you know what, I am wrong.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, if that ever happened, then we had better swallow our pride and say, you know what, okay, at least you realize you were. Let's move on.
And that's fine. And to friends of ours who openly regret their vote for Trump and openly talk about their disgust with the GOP, I've never kicked anybody out.
No. Is she telling us that it's halftime?
I think she is. I think she's saying, shut the fuck up, Aaron.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are at halftime of the Evan and Aaron show. And Aaron, my friend, you have the helm. Ooh, you can tell what I've been watching and been binge watching, right? You know,
I want to recognize two groups of people right now. First off, I think Naomi Osaka has taken a very, 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 very incredibly strong stance as a professional athlete.
Yeah.
And I think she's made it clear over the last couple of years that, I mean, she's a supporter of, you know, minority rights, people of color. She's Asian American herself, Asian and African American mix. I mean, she knows intersectionality. She's a woman participating in professional sports, and she's decided to make a stand for mental health. And you know, we've seen some athletes do it over the last few years. We've seen Kevin Love in the NBA be open about it. We've seen some of the women's professional athletes. We've seen Landon Donovan speak out about it. You know, Lamar Odom has had very publicly had issues. But I want to recognize Naomi Osaka as a leader on the issue, and everyone else who supports her stance to do so. And for people who recognize that this is not something to be stigmatized, that looking after your physical health, nobody thinks twice about that. You got a cold, go to the damn doctor. Hey, if you're depressed, go see the appropriate doctor. And it doesn't have to be depression. It can be a variety of things. You can be a very, very happy person and still get a lot of value out of speaking to a professional, because we're all facing really, really interesting issues, especially over this last year, that we never thought we'd have to deal with. Some loneliness. The politics of our era is really invasive on personally. So there's that. And I also want to recognize I have a lot of LGBTQ plus friends. I've always been an ally, and I continue to be, and I want to recognize all of our friends and know that you've got a safe space and a safe person to speak to in me and Evan anytime you need it. And you don't even have to speak. You can just come enjoy the shelter of an ally in quietude if that's what you need. But we need more and more people to speak out on these things and recognize that you're actually an asshole to be, really stigmatizing about mental health issues, about gay issues, about minority issues, about anything. That makes you the jerk, not the other way around. And we are going to change this society and this culture for the better by recognizing this. So that's who I want to speak out for. And I salute you all.
Sláinte.
Sláinte. That was a shot of beer, by the way.
Oh. Hey, I did something this week.
Staying away from the brown liquors and all that.
Yeah, you need no. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. I did something this week, man. Instead of running to the fridge, I put the beer on like aluminum ice cubes so it stays like nice and cold, dude.
Good man. Good.
I'm being responsible. I'm being responsible to the podcast, man.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
I'm here for you. What's next?
I think a minor thing that is of note is, we've had a lot of these GOP-led states really going hard on really isolating voters of color when it comes to these restrictive voting rights, these voting laws changes. But good on Democrats in Texas for staging a walkout and basically killing that. And I think it's absolutely hysterical that the governor is going to be like, well, I'll withhold your paychecks. Oh, really? You didn't withhold paychecks when the GOP decided to pull this stupid bullshit. And I'm pretty sure you can't do that. I have a feeling that you're probably not really allowed to do that. And you're going to wind up with a gigantic lawsuit. That's going to tie up the state for a very, very long time and make you look like an even bigger twat than you already are, Governor Abbott. So maybe back the fuck up on that one. But I do want to give props because the Democrats don't really do a very good job of playing hardball sometimes. But they recognized what tools were available to them and they went for it. So kudos to that group of men and women in Texas.
Yeah, man. I'm telling you, they, what's interesting is, why doesn't he withhold the paychecks of all the GOP senators and representatives who decided to vote about, not legislating the utility companies? And, all of a sudden you're without heat.
I'm pretty sure Ted Cruz deserves to go without a paycheck for abandoning the state of Texas in their moment of need to go to Cancun. And all of a sudden, after he abandoned the people of Texas in their time of need, apparently he is super, super concerned about the people of Israel right now.
Man, okay. Do you want to wade into these waters a little bit?
Well, we have before, and I do not think I'm sorry. I believe it is possible to hold the opinion that the people of Palestine deserve a state. The people of Israel deserve to be able to protect themselves.
Yeah.
And those two things are not mutually exclusive. Okay. And we can recognize that, yes, Israel has a right to protect itself and it's got the Iron Dome. It does not have the right to inflict disproportionate revenge just because they got attacked by some people. I always go back the incident where a little kid pulled out a slingshot and shot it at an Israeli Defense Force soldier in the shoulder. Soldier pulled out his rifle and shot the kid.
Popped him. I mean, you're right. Absolutely.
You shot at me with a rock. And you know what? Technically, your life was threatened, but it seems like you could have handled the situation slightly differently. And I believe Israel can and has an obligation I'm sorry, we consider Israel on par with England, France, Germany, the United States. I mean, they are a major nation state.
Sure.
With
Absolutely.
autonomy. They have a nuclear weapon.
Yeah, I know. No, but man, this is what was interesting about what you just got through saying is that the way you said it in your last few phrases of your statement, it sounded really familiar. Hey, you know what? If you'd have just complied, I mean, technically he was, kind of
Mhm.
like, didn't know what was going on, what was coming next. Was the kid going to, blow up in front of me or what? So I had to, it's so apparent that Israel is being protected, you know, right now by the United States, and it's sad. These are crimes against humanity.
Yeah.
This is exactly what's happening. And if you say that you are partners and friends with somebody, then call them out on this
Yeah.
shit. Call them out. Don't be a crony.
Yeah.
There's a difference between being a friend, a friendly nation, and being a crony.
Mhm.
Like right now, we're just being cronies.
Yeah.
And I think that I hope that, and maybe I haven't been paying that much attention to it, but I hope Biden has taken a stance and has started saying more things as far as being a little more forceful towards Israel, saying, "Hey, this is some old BS. You need to stop."
Well, look,
I don't know. I haven't heard anything. I haven't seen anything like that.
the look, if as
Yes,
uh
I agree. Io,
yeah,
sorry.
absolutely, as you know, as a major geopolitical force in the world, if we're going to be friends with Israel and Saudi Arabia at the exact same time, we had better do a better job of how we manage that friendship, or we
Yeah.
should get out of the business of selling both those countries weapons.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not going to do that because it makes us billions of dollars. The irony is we give Israel money and then they use that money to buy our weapons.
It's the
Shouldn't we
thing that
just
I say.
shouldn't we just give them the weapons and cut out the middleman bullshit?
Oh, no, we can't do that because, once again, the thing I say in my freshman level class that I teach at the very beginning, there are two threads that run throughout the course of history: money and morality. And what you will see is that 99.9% of the time, money wins over morality. It just does. That's what happens. Those
Mhm.
few rare times in the course of history where we actually make a moral decision, like those things are hardly celebrated.
Right.
Those things are hardly celebrated. Um, or they're made to be kind of like a novelty item. That's exactly what happens. I mean, that's what happens. So, of course not. Of course we won't get out of that racket. And I called it what it is. It's a racket.
Well,
So,
absolutely. And it's just, I don't know. It if
you
we
seem
didn't if we didn't
perplexed.
if we didn't manufacture most of the weapons and sell them to everybody indiscriminately, which I guess in some ways is a very, very egalitarian thing to do. If you can
Wow,
afford
that's a
our
stretch.
if you can afford our Tomahawk missiles, I guess you can have them, you know, instead of saying we do actually have a political stance on the world and we're not going to sell weapons to Iran while you openly back terrorism. But as Io said, the government of Israel is a quasi apartheid state.
Mm.
I mean, they are openly discriminating against and treating Palestinians as second-class citizens if they recognize them at all.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the only skosh of understanding I have for Israel in that is that the situation was placed upon them. Israel was carved out after World War II. It was the British mandate, and because the British do what the British do from time to time, they failed to understand what they had created by doing so. Yes, it's the promised land, it's the Holy Land, and this is where the Jews would like to return to. But in the interim, it's kind of been surrounded pretty heavily
Yeah.
by a large swath of people who don't want them there. You put them there. And then on top of that, you said we've got this other indigenous group of people that we're gonna rehome. And not only do they dislike the people right next to them, but the other people that are already there don't really care for them either. Like, you don't see Saudi Arabia coming to the defense of Palestine, right?
Nope.
And
Nope.
Syria only does it for land. I don't think Syria cares all that much about the Palestinians.
Nope.
I mean,
no, I agree.
Again, this is a deep thousands of year old, issue that I'm not going to pretend I fully understand, but I'm not going to pretend I don't get it either. The way the governments of these countries seem to go on about it. So I don't have the answer, but it seems like this is what not to do.
Yeah.
What Trump chose to do with moving the embassy and trying to move things around seemed to just inflame people.
Because that's what you're supposed to do in that area of the world.
And who was the dumbass that made the comment that American Jews' homeland is Israel? Like, I think they've got a soft spot for it, but I'm pretty sure they consider them. I'm pretty sure they consider themselves Americans.
That's funny. I'm like, let's turn that around. African Americans' home, it's truly Africa. Wait, what? No, not really. Not really. They would laugh me out of Africa. Okay, I'm just saying that. Io says, as a Nigerian, I know all too well about how the British try to solve problems they created by making more problems with their quote unquote solutions. Yeah, let's put over 100 tribes who have never lived together inside this border and they can figure it out. I mean, it literally, it's a proxy war. It's exactly what, speaking of Saudi Arabia, it's exactly what Saudi Arabia and Iraq did in Iran during the 1980s. And the United States came in and we did all of our bullshit there and ended up, creating this, this oppressive state that was actually before that allowing young girls to go to school, allowing, education to happen, allowing multiple religions to go on. Imagine that in Iran.
Well, it goes to show the Eurocentrism in their honest, just not viewing the African continent as human. Because if you would have said, okay, hey, France conquered, this part of Europe, we're just going to shove you all together, they would at least have a tacit understanding of, hey, these Germanic people and these people over here, they're probably not going to get along. So this is going to be a tough sell. And then they go to Africa, where there are thousands more, I guess, would you call it ethnic identities? I mean, there are all the ethnic, various tribes,
tribal. Yep.
And I got just a bare taste of this when we went to South Africa to experience there's the Xhosa tribes and the you've got Bantu tribes. You've got, South Africa is a massive country. It's very, very large. And consequently, you've got a lot of tribes within it. There's a whole other country inside South Africa. Swaziland is completely engulfed by the country of South Africa. So it's basically Montreal inside of Canada, right? A group of people who we're our own autonomous society, yet we're still sort of, and they are, they are to a certain extent, but I bet they can't get a whole lot done without South Africa saying so.
True.
And
very true.
And you had what, 200 years where the British and the Dutch went back and forth over who's in control, and eventually the English went, this is just too much fucking trouble, and the Dutch were like, no one's ever seen assholes like us. No one has
Right.
ever seen Afrikaans. No one's ever seen what we can do. And starting in the late 40s, they said, slavery, child's play. We got a whole new thing for you called apartheid, and we are going to show you exactly how to be shitty to other people. And man, did they live up to that mandate? I mean,
They sure did.
It is something else. And that's one country of a continent that has been ravaged over and over again. The French, the Dutch, the Belgians, the Portuguese, the English, all have taken their turns.
Yep.
And then all just said, fuck it, we're leaving now, which of course, that's probably for the best. But at the same time, you're like, all right, well, we're going to leave you, and we've created this infrastructure, but now there's no way for you to enforce it. You look at what went on in Rwanda.
Oh,
I mean, that's the epitome of the same thing that kind of went on, in Yugoslavia. You forced these groups of people to live together that didn't want to be together. And they basically got along because you were their common enemy. And then you leave, and all of a sudden they go, oh, hey, I forgot I fucking hated you. And all of a sudden, some of the most brutal social engineering tactics in history. Oh, you don't want to support us? We'll just take your arm.
Hey,
you can't fight against us that way.
I wanted to say this, and I wanted to show Io this before we went into the Hey Aaron segment. Io, the greatest percentage of my DNA from Africa, Nigerian, my friend. Nigerian. There you go. And this is one of the things we were talking about before. I have a really good friend who is able to trace a lot of my history, and I'm very grateful to her. Back to like Revolutionary War days. So that was really cool. But I got that almost 30% Nigerian. My man, I knew there was a reason why we, clicked like that. So, anyway, we're going to get into my favorite part of the show. That is the Hey Aaron segment of our show. And my man, I have I think a fun one tonight. It's kind of light because it's 7:54 and it's still light outside, and we've had rain all day. And it's cloudy and nasty, but it's still light outside, which I'm just like, oh, thank you, Io. Thank you, brother. Appreciate that. So here's what we're going to do. So the Hey Aaron segment tonight is, hey, Aaron, you're getting ready to get into a bar fight. You can choose two people from the photograph that I'm getting ready to show you. You have to choose two people, two characters, and you have to say why you would choose them.
So they're going into battle with me in a bar
fight.
Into
battle with you, man. Into battle with you. Okay. Also, those who are watching, you go ahead and throw your choices in. I'm going to share my screen. Are you ready for this, my friend?
I am absolutely ready.
You have no idea what group of people.
No, I don't. I don't know if you're about to show me like Marvel characters or people that we hang out with at the bar.
It's going to take some time for you to kind of peruse because there's a lot of them. So here we go, my friend.
Why are you getting this up? I would just like to point out that the Indy 11 are up 1-0 at halftime against Oklahoma City.
Nice. Very good. Very good. All right, here we go. You only get two.
Oh, wow. Some of these people would be no help whatsoever. I'm not going to go into a bar fight with Charlie Brown, that's for sure.
Well, I mean, you can run faster than him, I guess, I mean.
True.
Yeah.
And Schroeder would probably be even or Linus would be even less.
Linus. I don't know. He's good with that blanket though, bro. He's good with the blanket. All right. You're right and you're left, man. Who you need? Who you need?
Who's the white guy in the middle?
I know.
He might be a badass. Does this dude?
He might be.
I don't know. MMA.
I don't know. I have no idea. I saw this and I was intrigued and I'm like, okay, well, this is the Hey Aaron segment. All right. So Io says Lion-O and Batman. Ooh, he went okay. Is there? I mean, there's an obvious reason. I'm thinking why Io, but I mean, please feel free to explain yourself. Aaron.
Okay, I'm probably gonna agree with Batman because now Superman is in my opinion quite obviously the most powerful person here, but
right. But let's be creative here.
He's also got a very, very strict morality and may struggle with the whole bar fight concept. Whereas Batman kind of wants to get into some shit. He absolutely kind of wants to get into some shit.
Yep. I honestly I am gravitating toward Yakko Warner.
I can get on board with that. I can because I'm thinking I was thinking first off, I was thinking that the Powerpuff Girls come together as a trio.
Yes,
so
I'll give you that.
That might be handy, and that nobody would expect them. Like you'd just be hanging out, and people be like, "I'm gonna kick your ass," and all of a sudden, I got like these three small chicks just whipping the shit out of you.
Yes, absolutely.
But I'm gonna go with Popeye because he's just a straight up brawler. And if you saw somebody with 4 arms twice the size of your head coming at you, I think you would just get the fuck out in a hurry. And dude's a sailor. I'm guessing he's been in his fair share of bar fights in the Far East. I'm going with Batman and Popeye.
Man, that is really good. That's really good. Well, it's Wakko Warner. I'm going with Wackos just simply because like you want that crazy friend.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? You want that crazy dude. You want that crazy dude that just like is like goes up to the 300-pound dude and says, "Come on, let's go." And I think Wakko would be that guy. I'd be like, okay, you may get crushed in about 5 seconds, but that gives me 5 seconds to take care of some business, right? I'm going to have to pull the Johnny Bravo, dude. I'm going to have to pull Johnny Bravo. I'm going to have to. I mean,
I think the problem is he's gonna get you into a lot of fights by just being a douche.
Well, I know, but he can get out of a lot of fights too, because Johnny Bravo can bring it, bro. I don't know if you watch Johnny Bravo.
He can throw some thunder. I think Ren and Stimpy might accidentally come in handy.
Oh, just to throw him in the mix, just to like,
because crazy shit's gonna happen. Because I thought about Pinky and the Brain, but their shit always fails.
Right.
So yeah, you gotta think about it from like their cartoon universe. Like Pinky and the Brain, he's a nasty son of a bitch, but at the same time, it always fails. Garfield will just be eating snacks while you need some help.
He wouldn't help. But a close third.
That Care Bear is not going to come in handy at all.
Unless
you're swinging the Care Bear at him.
Wait a minute now. Wait a minute. The Care Bear very well could be a pass. Could be say, hey, let's sit and let's talk about this. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying they could be the voice of reason. However,
get the Care Bear stare.
Yeah, that's right. A close third is my man Peter Griffin.
I was going to say Peter wants to throw down.
Peter wants to throw down. I mean, I would, first of all, I would love to have a beer with him to see what grinds his gears. I just want to see what grinds his gears.
My gears.
But then have somebody come in and start some shit. Like I know Peter. Peter would be like, oh yeah, it's all on. It is all on. So I'm going. I've changed my mind. I'm going Wakko Warner and Peter Griffin. That's what I'm doing right there, man. So there you go.
You're going to be in an absurd bar fight. but the best part is Wakko is going to come up with some. I mean, he's going to insult whoever you're fighting the entire time.
Exactly. Exactly. So I've got to have that, man. I've got to have that craziness.
Now,
Like yeah.
which of Yakko and Wacko, which one sounds like Ringo?
Wacko sounds like Ringo.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's Wacko.
Okay.
I think it's Wacko. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that was another interactive Hey Aaron segment. And Aaron, I appreciate and I love your your analysis of that. I can see Powerpuff Girls, especially Buttercup. She's a stay ready.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of our show. Aaron, there's tons of directions you can go with this, but this is, like I said, my second favorite part of the show, where Aaron kind of has the final word and just sends us off. Aaron, what is your final word, my friend?
My final word is going to be about some positivity. Could focus on some downer things. And there's a lot of work to be done. But I'm going to stay positive and say, you know what? We got cheated out of summer last year. We're all starting to come out from the COVID bubble. A lot of people getting their shots. We're getting over 50% vaccination. We're probably get to around 70 because there's 30% of our population that are either too stupid to function or
douches.
Have, I'll give a few people a reasonable excuse for choosing not to get it. But the vast majority of the people choosing not to, I think, just aren't very bright. I said it at me. But I'm going to say, despite today and a little raininess, we're getting some good warmth coming, and it's time to get out there. It's time to go get some ice cream, enjoy being outside, go meet some friends for a drink at an outdoor patio, go spend some money in the city. Let's get things going again. Especially if you've been vaxxed, it's no excuse. Let's get out there. Let's start making this. And I tell you what, if you've been vaxxed, A, I like you. And B, you have an opportunity to be one of the first out there and open your mouth and say, this is the new world I want to live in. I want to live in a world where we recognize LGBTQ people for the month of June and beyond, and say, you know, they deserve the same dignity and humanity. Get out there and say, hey, we don't have to pretend Tulsa didn't happen. It's a thing that happened, and we can recognize it, and we can honor these people. And the best way is to move forward and say, we're not going to cover this shit up anymore. We're going to teach this in schools. We're going to positively move forward with this stuff. We're not going to hide it under a rug anymore. And we're going to get out there, and we're going to enjoy this city. We're going to build it up in the image that we want. So that's my message for now. And come back in a week and it might change, but that's what I'm going with today.
So. Hey, and also, can I throw something in there? While you're declaring all this stuff, can we get a different month than February? It's the worst fucking month of the year.
It's the shortest month too. That's some bullshit.
It's just a god awfulest weather. Can we have July? Is that cool? Because you know what, we could like compare and do some things together with the LGBTQ community, and Juneteenth would be kind of.
I was gonna say, I think come Juneteenth, you can kind of carry on that mantle. Maybe we have an overlap period where there's the gay people of color portion of the month, and then we move to Juneteenth.
Dude, that's brilliant.
And celebrating.
That is brilliant, bro.
And
brilliant.
Just elevate, just lift us all up. I know Chet Hanks really needs it to be white boy summer, but I got bad news for him. It's been like white boy summer for like, I don't know, the last 200 and some years. And if he hasn't been taking advantage of that, that's his problem. By the way, your father's Tom Hanks. Like, what are you doing? Like, I'm so confused. Why are you asking young women for money? Tom Hanks has to be so embarrassed of his son.
Oh my God, man.
But anyway, folks, thank you for tuning in. It's always a pleasure. Love seeing you. And I tell you what, it's time for us to all get out and meet up. Have a friends of the podcast
I think we need to
appetizer
do an
and
maybe an after show.
I
One of
think
these
an after
Wednesdays.
show. I think an after show. Maybe we do a remote broadcast, and then after the show, take over that back room and a little party. Rudy, we're
Oh,
coming
we got
for
to
you.
make that. We got to make that happen. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Black people vote.
Black people vote.
Have a good night.
Love you all. Take care.